Hi, I'm Alexander Barnes. As April born in Shongo, Spence, Shane Spain. Now, we're going to be talking about, we're going to present our model, and we're going to present our model based on, our model was pretty much made based on providing the best model possible to dispense medication in case of an emergency. And so the goals and objectives. The goals is identify dispensing locations, identify staff required, provide recommendation for dispensing, and provide a strategy for dispensing. Pretty much our assumptions that we made during our design of our model was to fit the worst case scenario. So in case of anything that's better than what we design our model based on, is going to benefit our model. So the casino stuff, based on the numbers given to us, we went with 1,000 and 2,200 for the casino guests. The personnel available to cost part is 50, and healthcare workers available was 2 to 4. We went with 2. And our customers' family dispensing utilization was 40%, 10% for the employee family dispensing utilization, and inflection rate we went with the worst case, which was 0. The guests who have special needs, 5%. So the casino guest patients participating in the family dispensing. And dispensing costs less, total patients needed to process, which is if a person comes down from the hotel to come for the medication, he's gonna take it back to his family, so they don't have to come back down. And the casino employee patients participating in the family dispensing did not subtract from the total patients needed to process. The employees working is also accountable, so we can also account for them. And we went with 24 hours distribution time as opposed to 36 hours. Once again, our worst case scenario. And we're going to distribute by the month only.
All right, we're starting a bunch of results slides here. I'm going to start them off, and then April's going to follow them up. And then we'll talk a little bit of how we got these numbers after a couple more slides. The number of pods, it sounds like there's pretty much general consensus today that we went with 1. We'll talk a little bit more about why we might go to 2 a little bit later on. The location of dispensing is the ballroom, and we'll talk about the limitations of that room later on as well. And then the number of staff required is 52. That's the 50 minimum staff, so that's our worst case scenario. So we're just assuming that we can't get all the people we need. And then we only have 2 healthcare workers in that 52. So 52 was our total, so we could have anything less than that, and our model will run fine. And now April's going to talk a little bit about our model's results.
The model that we decided, we ran through a couple of different possibilities, and the one that we decided with was with 1 single pod located in the ballroom, and giving the employees a priority over everybody else. We figured they've already registered, they already know what's going on, and we also wanted to get them back onto the floor as quickly as possible so they could be helping out. With this, we had them arriving at the beginning of their shift and going straight through, and that gave them an average going through the system of 3.54 minutes for a 95% confidence interval, with a minimum of 530 for really, sorry, it's 0.5360 minutes and a maximum of 16 minutes, and our customer of an average of 10 minutes and a minimum of 0.7 and max of 88. We also found that our wait time for screening was about 2 minutes. Our express dispense, which we broke ours up so that those who had families would go through a regular dispense, and then those employees and those that are individuals would go through an express dispense. And they had an average of 0.00843 minutes, and the family is 0.13. With that, we assumed that there was, with this model, we assumed that there was 5% special needs, 40% family, 10% for family for employees, and we gave the special needs and families basically twice as long to go through the system as employees and those without families. Our alternate scenarios that we went through were a one pod where it was just first in, first out. Those who went in, first processed, and we found that although the customer average went up just a bit, and the employee average also doubled. So that's more time that your employees are not on the floor being able to help you with other things. So we threw this one out and decided it was not going to work for what we wanted it. And one of our last scenarios is a two-pod system, and we ran the numbers for this one, but found that because you only have 50 people that are processing, due to the amount of people, we broke it up so there were 5 employees or 6 employees running the pod for the employees and the handicaps, and there were 18, or not quite 18, it's like 23, that were running the other one. It ended up that your employees were sitting around or waiting in line for a really long time. So we decided that that's why we went with the one pod versus 2 pods, just because then you can use utilize the other pod members to distribute your employees. And there was a third scenario. Which is a one employees. Initially, in our initial one, we sent all the employees through right as they got there. And we also tried it with scheduling our employees to come through at intervals in 3 shifts during their shift. But we found with this one that although our times were a little bit better for they're about the same for the employee and a little bit better for the customer, we decided to throw this one out and impose the other one because we wanted to make sure that all of our employees went through, got vaccinated, and were on the floor, as opposed to worrying about the stragglers of our employees dropping out. And for both this one and the one we actually wanted to, for our customers' arrival rate, we decided that it was going to be exponential of 0.00364, and that was taking the 550 max number of customers and dividing that over the 8 hours, or dividing it by the 8-hour shifts, and it's 1 over that. But we figured that they would be kind of straggling in over time because some would be playing, and the time it would take for them to get down the floor, that it would just be kind of a constant people showing up.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the methodology that we use, and then we'll go into some of the tools that we use as industrial engineers to make this work, and explain our vague numbers that we just showed you here in a second. We use the worst case assumptions. We've been saying that a lot. Xander talked about it a lot. And we use the 8-hour time period because that's where most of our numbers were given to us. We used Microsoft Excel with the solver add-in that helped us out a lot. You'll be seeing that on the next slide. And we were able to calculate the steady state flow rates using this and provide us an upper limit on our processing times. And then we used Arena to make a lower limit on our processing times. We were able to tweak it to find something in the middle that's slightly more realistic than either one of these could provide. So using this upper limit processing times, it allowed us to design for our maximum capacity. So we were able to find out that we could indeed process as many people. We'll be talking a little more about the limitations about how much people we can process through. But we can do a lot of people with just 1 pod. And the Arena simulation model allowed us to be extremely flexible. We could go inside of our Markov chain and change the probabilities really quick and be able to do 10 replications and find what that provided us with. So Arena definitely helped us out, as you saw a bunch of numbers on those slides before, and in our report will likely have a lot of numbers in it. And the flexibility of this allowed us to test the sensitivity of our model and provide the best one. And we'll head on to the next slide and talk about Excel. There it is, right there, the Excel spreadsheet. We use this, and we use Solver to minimize the hours time complete. There's some extra numbers in there that we don't need to worry about right now. But the things are highlighted over here on the left-hand side. We need 1 greeter, 19 screeners, 10 family assistance dispensers, 19 express dispensers, and all that was given to us by Solver by highlighting the time to complete hours and using those as the fields to change. We calculated the estimate number required for treatment for the worst case. Those are our numbers that Xander was talking about at the beginning. So the casino staff is 1,000, but right there you see 600 and 400 on that line 15. So that's the percent of the people that are utilizing the family line. So it splits them up right there evenly. Once you go into the guests, it starts getting a little bit crazy with that 40%, because that 40% is taking care of a certain number of people up in the hotel. So it lowers the number a little bit there. The total time, we got that by taking the process time estimates, which you can see like lines 5, 7, 9, and 11 are all process time estimates. And we divide them by the number of workers that are needed to get the steady state time, and then multiply that by the number of patients that we're expecting down at the bottom. And once we sum all that up, we can get the total time in hours. And it gives us the pod utilization down there. And we have this spreadsheet, so it automatically updates and tells us how many pods we need. So if we increase the family utilization, it can actually make us need more pods. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in our limitations. But we thought 40% of guests and employees having families was a pretty good estimation. Okay, next slide. All right, this is our stochastic model that we moved into Arena. So there's the model itself and the Arena model down below it. All right, I'm going to hand it off to Shane.
Like we've been saying, we're designing for the worst case scenario, and although we are, there's some basic limitations that follow that. We can only work with a closed pod and with a maximum of about 18,000. And if it's over that, it results in extremely large wait times, which we can't deal with. And we're also assuming that you're never going to have an influx of about 1,000 patients at once, because if you have more than that, then it'll also create extremely large wait times, which you don't want that. We do not want the family utilization to be less than 54, or you will need multiple pods, as we said earlier.
That's greater.
Oh, greater than, not bad. All right. Some additional recommendations. We wanted to have like a maximum number for each one of the dispensing lines, and as you can see here, you want the maximum room capacity is 550, and the maximum number is under that, obviously, for what we're recommending. For screening, we want 250. For express and family, we want both 25. We got these numbers from the Arena model for the maximum throughput and the width for each one of them. We also want to notify people on different floors that they can come down at certain times. I'm not saying that they have to, but it will allow for like a more steady process instead of somebody coming in at all at one time, or vice versa. Also, greeters, they should have like clipboards, and on the clipboards there should be like forms that they have to fill out, and they can give them to them at the end of the line, and so they go forward. They can drop the clipboard off when they get to the end, and once like wherever they're putting them in, say a cart or a bucket, they can re-put the forms on and pass them back out. Also, not in this slide, but the security officers can assist in the flow, but if they're not actually doing anything wrong. Okay, the goals and the objectives we've accomplished. We're going to have one pod in the ballroom. It should achieve everything that in the right amount of time. We have limiting factors, of course, that are our probabilities and everything. And we hope these recommendations will allow you to make your pod best as possible.
Thank you. Okay, so the rest of you luck out. There are no more questions. We're just going to go for the next group so that we can get out.